Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tower Yoga Podcast. I'm really excited about today's episode because I have a special guest with me. It's been a minute since we had an interview style podcast. It's just been a lot of me talking out into the void. So this is really, really nice. It's someone that many of you listeners will know and you'll recognize just from being around Tower area. I'm here with Jeremy Hofer, a longtime student in our community, a very longtime student actually, and a musician with his band Boha, among other things. Today we are talking about his journey with music, how it weaves into his yoga practice. And we'll also share a little bit about our upcoming winter solstice flow collaboration. So that's actually happening on the winter solstice. It's happening on December 21st. So we'll get into that. I'll give the details later towards the end, but we'll just dive right into this. I think it'll be a really heart-centered conversation, just a fun conversation. So let's just jump right on in. To start, Jeremy, for listeners to get a sense of who you are, through your music, well, first of all, you can of course introduce yourself, all that kind of stuff, and then how'd you get into music and what drew you to the instruments that you play?
Thanks for having me on, Kellee. I think it's awesome that you're doing this podcast, and it's an honor to be here. So what drew me into music was probably my grandpa. Just seeing him growing up. He was always playing music, the piano and singing and duet with my grandma. So that was kind of my early memories. And then when I was in fourth grade, they called me out of class and took me to the cafeteria, and I just perused all these instruments. It was just like the choices of any instrument I could choose. It was like choose your own adventure. And I picked up a few instruments and it didn't sound right. But then when I picked up the flute, I knew how to blow over the bottle, how to do that. And when I blew over that flute, it just made the nicest sound. And I was hooked. And so I started my journey with the flute in fourth grade. And it's really funny as I think about, I was thinking about kind of the connections between yoga and my musical practice over the past week. And I remember early on having to put my head between my legs to breathe because when you start playing the flute, you get really lightheaded quickly. You have to train your lungs, you have to train your brain into being able to hold the breathe deep and hold the breath for long periods of time. And so I guess my breath practice started in fourth grade, and I played it till eighth grade, and then I was embarrassed to be the only boy in the front row, and so I quit. I was dumb. But then in Mexico, I picked up a wooden flute, and then picked up another wooden flute. Now I have a whole collection of wooden flutes, and then also got started back on the metal flute then too. So that was my
That's
beginning. That's
incredible.
how it started.
I'm sorry, but like I was just thinking about that part in Anchorman. She's like, you're just a little flute boy. But I don't know. Flute boys are cool.
Yeah, I didn't know it back then, but we are.
Yeah, that is, I was like playing the recorder, like Mary Had a Little Lamb in fourth grade. So like that's cool that you
Yeah.
actually picked up a real, I mean, people probably do amazing things on flutes. I mean recorders, but yeah, that's so awesome. And I have been meeting a lot of musicians recently who um play instruments, like especially wind instruments and things like that. But it's so interesting how, yeah, that is like breath work, or it is needing to tap into a rhythm or feel or sense. It is actually like so deep and so spiritual. That's really cool.
Yeah, so is singing, right? I mean, singing and even oration and poetry, like all of that, when you think about it, is you're training your breath and you're holding it for long periods of time. And yeah, so that was kind of one of the beginnings of thinking about how yoga and music has intertwined, especially as a wind musician,
Hmm.
playing the flute. Then in college, I picked up the guitar really basically because I wanted to sing Bob Marley. I just loved Bob Marley. I was just like, I was in Ecuador for a year, and I discovered, I had some friends that were playing him all the time, and I was like, where has this music been all my life? And so I picked it up, and and then started a band in like 99. I'm dating myself here, 99, out of
Mhm.
college. Started a band, a world beat band called Wadama. And we had a didgeridoo, a wooden flutes, and guitar, and a djembe, and we were doing the world beat thing. And it slowly morphed into kind of more of a traditional reggae band, or we played more and more reggae, and did that till 2006, and then took a hiatus, raised a family, and then got back into it with Boha in 2018.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess just like fun fact, even you and your band were playing at my wedding. So it's just really cool. And I still remember like from our house, we could hear the didgeridoo like playing. And we rode our bike up to our wedding, of course, and that was just,
Magical.
I will never forget it. So cool.
Yeah, well, you
Um,
better not forget it, but I will never forget it either because it was such a magical. I think a lot of people in the community won't forget that
yeah.
wedding. It was awesome.
Well, thank you, again for being a part of that. And really cool to hear about how, some things expanded in college and all that kind of stuff. So you've definitely like evolved over time
Hmm.
and through the years. And you were talking about, of course, Bob Marley being a huge influence, but what have been some other like major influences in your musical journey? Like who or what, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I got really deep into roots reggae. I realized, oh, okay, reggae is a lot more than Bob Marley. He just was like the gateway to it. And so, Toots and the Maytals and Peter Tosh and the Abyssinians and all of these, like, especially the reggae bands from the 70s and 80s, even Steel Pulse, that used a lot of harmonies, and I just loved harmonies. And so I always wanted to play in a band where I was harmonizing with others, and so that was kind of the thing about Boha was we actually, there were two, three, even four of us, all four of us at the beginning would harmonize with each other with these songs, and that was just like so beautiful. So yeah, it was a lot of that roots reggae, but then um, ironically, through the yoga studio, I was introduced to all kinds of other music because, you yoga instructors, you curate these awesome playlists, and I feel like, it's like when you're at like this peak experience, and then you're hearing this new song that you've never heard before that kind of goes along with the whole flow and everything. And so I mean, how many times did I go up to you after class and like, what's that playlist? What's that playlist? And
Yeah, I love it.
I have, I have a ton of your playlists on my streaming service, which I shall not name.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that, I mean, yoga class was a great place to start exploring EDM and other types of genres that I hadn't really explored when I was younger.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah. So it sounds like traveling and just exposure through growing up and then new experiences, and you're open to it all. And that's really, really awesome.
I think the first time I was thinking back, like the first time I ever heard reggae, I was 12 in the Philippines. My parents were missionaries. And so they brought me to the Philippines when I was 10, and I was there till I was 15. And, it's islands, obviously, there's like 7,000 islands. So we're on this far off island resort, which we never really went to resorts. We lived pretty frugally, but this was a very special time. And I remember hearing UB40, and it was probably a really stupid, like Red Wine or something. But I remember thinking as a kid, like, wow, this is the perfect song for this moment. And I think that's where I really got the island vibe. It like, it's like a bug. Um, yeah, I think that's where it kind of, I had first heard it, and then the reggae music, in college, and then just through discovery, and playing it, just singing it and playing it with others. That's how I've been growing.
And it sort of like actually circles back to your upbringing with your grandma and grandpa, and they would do duets and maybe harmonize together, I am
Right.
imagining. And yeah, so it comes back. It's like that's home for you. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah, it
cool.
is. It's the teamwork of music, and I love jazz now, and I've discovered a lot of jazz, and I think the concept of jazz is like it was kind of it's the foundation of how Boha was started, which was the first letter of each of our last names. And so it was Bowman, Oakes, Hofer, and Abella. And so Boha, and the concept of it was it wasn't one star and a backing band. It was really all of us that would have a chance to shine, and we kind of treat it like jazz. So throughout a song, there'd be a jam where each of us would step in and get a little bit of that limelight, or share our skills and stuff. So yeah, I think that harmonies, the teamwork, the jazz of it is really what attracts me to music and playing music.
I love that. I just love hearing like all the layers of your musical story in general. And it's been cool to see how that's like intersecting with your yoga practice over the years, you know? So I love that. Can you share how you first found yoga or what brought you to the mat in the beginning? And I know some of this story and I love this story and I love telling the story, but I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Well, actually, Tower Yoga was the second studio that I had gone to in my life. In college, when I was in Ecuador for that year, it was like there's some Christian colleges out there. This was a Buddhist-based college that we went to, Universidad de San Francisco in Quito, and they had, as part of their core class, you could take yoga as like the core class. So like, at a Christian college, it might be Bible study that you take or whatever as a core. This was yoga. So I was like exploring and really fell in love with it. But kind of like the music, I fell away from it for all those years. And then I was at Goldstein's and on the dance floor, it was like a DJ, and I was dancing and having a good time. And two beautiful women were dancing right in front of, like, just dancing on the floor and doing all these crazy moves. Like I had really never seen like two women doing these kinds of moves. I mean, they were cool. Like they looked really, they were cool moves. And so I went up to them genuinely like curious, like, where did you guys learn how to dance? And they both looked at me at the same time. It was you and Janelle looked at me and said, "We do yoga." It was just like a classic. And it was like, and then you looked at each other because you realized you said it in unison, and we all cracked up. And yeah, that was the first time that I had been, well, first time I met you anyway. And you're like, "Come on, no, let's go check out the new studio." And so walk through the studio, and I was like, I'm gonna come back here and check this out. I'm really interested in this. I don't know. It was a couple weeks later. I'd been recently divorced, and my kids weren't talking to me at the time. I was kind of estranged from them, and having a really rough Sunday. And I actually, I tried to go to church that morning. I went to church. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I just want to go sit in the pew. I need to do something positive. I need to sit somewhere. And so I sat down, and the minute I sat down, the pastor said, "All right, we're going to go out and have a socializing hour first instead of waiting to the end." And everybody got up and started to walk towards me in the back row, and they were all smiling and wanting to talk to me. And I just noped out of there. I was just like, boom, I'm gone. And so I went back home, and I was sitting there on the porch, and I was about to go get a bottle. I was like, I'm just gonna, you know what? I don't know. I'm just gonna just drown my sorrows. And then I remembered I downloaded the app, and I remembered, I was like, there might be like a class. And sure enough, there was a noon Booty yoga class with Janelle Claymon. I had no idea what Booty yoga was. I showed up there, and I literally shook those sorrows out. It was just like, boom. I felt so elated after that I was hooked. I was hooked.
That I just remember that like it was yesterday. And I meet a lot of people and tell them like, "Oh, come to the yoga studio." And sometimes people do, a lot of times they don't, especially like some guy at a bar.
Yeah,
But
right.
and I just, the fact that you came, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's incredible." And then I became like privy to the moment in time you were like living in and like what you were experiencing and moving through. And I was just really glad that you did that for yourself and that we had a space and that it resonated and that it seemed to help. And then it was just one of those moments where I was like, this is like why we're here. It's
Yeah.
so cool. And then to see how everything has changed so much, and that could be a whole nother podcast of like how many more ways we're interconnected and all these kinds of things. But it was just really meant to be, I think.
It was. It was.
Yeah.
That room became a space for healing for me, and it was a journey, a really wonderful journey. So I'm eternally grateful for that
Ah,
space.
yeah. Same to you. And you've been practicing for a while now, honestly, because that was like really early on. So how does your yoga practice support your music? And like I guess vice versa.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without it. And I tell everybody that and I think it's just having a discipline ultimately. Like I don't think necessarily there's like a silver bullet in one discipline, but yoga has been mine, and I've found it's kind of cliche to say, but a balance because I have a profession, I have a career, which I work 40, 60 hours a week at. I have a band, which is a passion of mine, but it also takes work and rehearsals and crafting and discipline. And then I have my community work, which I do, with Porchfest and some other boards that I'm part of. I'm on the Central California Community Land Trust. Um, and so I think it boils down to motivation and energy, right? To be able to not only do something once, but then do it again and again and again. And so like we're on our fifth year of Porchfest now. And so it's the inspiration is important to do something, but then how you need to have the discipline to be able to have the energy and the well that you can keep going back to that well, right? The well
Hmm.
of motivation. And I find that is what my yoga practice really gives me is by going back to that space and the breath work and the intention, I'm able to kind of keep sustaining, and I mean, I'm almost 50 years old, which is crazy, but I feel more energetic now than I did when I was 40.
That's
So
incredible. And I hear that kind of thing like all the time with people. So it's really, really powerful. But you mentioned Porch Fest a couple times, and most of the listeners are like in our community, but just in case someone's new or who isn't, maybe they do live a little further away or something like that. What is Porch Fest? Like what's it about? When does it happen? All that stuff.
yeah, Porch Fest is a community celebration of music and performance. There's even yoga on the lawn, so I hear, um, and it's basically a manifestation of the Tower community of artists and performers coming out. It's that basically 100. Last year we had about 100 porches that hosted over 360 performances throughout one day. It always happens on the last Saturday of April, so April 25th, 2026 is the next one. And it's been a group of us that have planned this, but then beyond it, it's the porch hosts, it's the musicians. We had over 1,000 volunteers all coming out on one day, whether they were a musician or a liaison that helped the porch host or the porch hosts themselves. So think about that kind of energy all happening on one day. It's just this exuberant like explosion of joy that happens. It's like Christmas for the Tower District is how I've heard it described too. Um, so yeah, that's just an example of kind of uh, bringing something that I love, which is performance, together with another thing which I love, which is community, right? And so it's like finding those nexuses, those convergences of the things that we love and making them like synchronized together. Like I think that's when you can really raise the energy around certain things in our lives. So that was a really special one that keeps giving, keeps happening.
It's another way to harmonize as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very jazz. When you get out there, you're just like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to sing? What am I going to, yeah.
It is. It is. Where am I going? Where are you going? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's so fun. So if you haven't gone, then mark that date on your calendar. And if you're a performer, reach out, all those kinds of things. There's so much that's needed to make that all possible. So
Yeah, towerporchfest.org
cool.
is a great place to go and check it out.
It's easy. Love it. All right. So let's get in, I guess, a little bit into the winter solstice slow flow that you and I are going to be doing together. I'm excited for this because I think it's a perfect way to slow down and mark the transition into winter, to like have a transition point that's acknowledged and that is uh, an intentional time and space in the year. So for, again, all of you listening, on Saturday, December 21st from 4:30 to 6 p.m., I'll be guiding like a slow flow yoga session in the Lotus Room. And there will be some optional journaling, like a candlelit atmosphere. So it'll be nice. And the live music, of course, will be from Jeremy. It's going to be very cozy and very grounding and just super chill. So for your part in the experience, what instruments can they expect for you to bring? Your flute, I'm sure, and different flutes, but yeah, let us know.
Yeah, I don't quite know exactly. I definitely will have probably 3 or 4 different flutes. Um, I don't know. We need to talk about maybe some more things. I mean, I play guitar, and so I can layer some flute over guitar as well. But we can kind of we'll talk about it a little bit more as it comes closer. But it's really going to be me riffing off of what you're doing. My goal is to really be part and listening to where you're leading and where you're guiding all of us, and just to be part of it, kind of like a conversation. And so hopefully we can kind of communicate back and forth, me with the flute and you with your guiding and the movement and the breath. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Excited
me
about it.
too. And we've done some things like this in the past, and so we know that we like have that kind of, it works, which is cool. And so we have also like that trust. And I think that there is a way to tap into the rhythm and tap into like the breath, like the collective breath in the room, the emotion that's felt, and the intention. And so it will definitely be, speaking of jazz, it'll really be like, a bit of improving, but because
Improv, yeah.
it's happening in real time. And I really love that. And the thing too is like, I have facilitated and collaborated with more traditional sound baths in the past, and maybe I will again in the future. But one thing I've noticed just as a participant is that in some of the more, I don't know, just like your standard sound bath that I've attended, it's just this like constant thing with the bowls or like with the sound. And unless they're shifting and changing to like a different instrument or tool, if it goes too long, it can be really intense. And for it to not have anywhere to go through movement, it's just a lot, and if you're doing like a one-on-one experience, I think that, and someone's really just focused on you, maybe that could be fine. But when you're in a whole group, you can't tap into every like single person. And so, um, when I was thinking about, I think sound is so important and it adds so much. But it's just not something that's like been super resonating with me as a practitioner. So of course it's not going to be something that I want to like offer. But I was thinking about a few different people where I'm like, I know we've worked and collaborated with before, and something I love about you is that you allow for space and
Hmm.
silence. And sometimes, so it's not just this like, we can let it land. Whatever
Hmm.
came up through the movement and through the music and through the moment, it has somewhere to land. It's almost like there's some palate cleanser, and
Right.
then get back into it. So I think with there potentially being different instruments and also that space that you're just really
Hmm.
good at naturally giving, I think, and there being a little bit of a slow flow rather than it being a restorative only, which we
Right.
will hold postures, we will relax. Like I do want to give some eye pillows at the end and do a long shavasana. So it will
Yes.
be very relaxing, but I just think I'm hoping that there's a little bit more of an embodied
Mhm.
feeling when people are leaving of like the moment and the day and the time, rather than just being this thing of like sound happening to you. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you made me think of like what I've thought about how I take conversations, in that if you're always talking and if you're always saying what's on your mind and like trying to fill every space, you're not allowing others to step in and tell their story. You're not allowing, and that story actually can take the conversation in a whole different direction too. So having that like those pauses in a conversation, the rests actually allows the conversation to evolve in new directions, right? And so that's kind of what it made me think of is like, as a musician, it's really easy to fill space and make people feel a way, but it's almost like in that when you stop filling a space and let that pause for a while and let that sound almost like resound, for a while, and then you allow other, whether it's just people's breath or their thoughts come in, or you step in and say something, or yeah, I think that it's that dance again. It's like jazz where you're listening more than you're even playing. Like you're listening for others to speak up and then playing off of that. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really, really good time.
Me too. I'm so excited. And like it's easy for me as a teacher too, and other teachers will probably resonate with this as well. Like it's also easy to fill up the space, especially if you see someone tapping or doing something or they're like moving because you're not saying something. You always have like a couple little antsy people, and it could be for lots of reasons. So, literally no judgment at all because it could be for any kind of reason that's totally valid. But the it where where it's hard as someone who's holding the space. I know it's like, overused to say that, but is you want to just like say something to like fill it so no one has to like fill it, but maybe that person just needs to feel that way, or they're going to be moving
Right.
like that anyways, or because of something else that's going on that you have no idea about. So I do think like really that has been something that I have worked on. It sounds like that's something that you've thought about. So it's cool that we're like in alignment with that. And to let people know that who are coming is that there will be some moments just to like feel and let things land. And yeah. Uh, but I just want to say thank you so much. I think that this has been such a great conversation. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with the listeners about anything else you're involved in, or where people can find you, or do you have upcoming shows or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll put a plug in for Boha, bohareggae.com. We're opening for Let's Go Bowling on January 9th at Fulton 55. And then we've got a couple shows at Barrel House North, and including a Bob Marley tribute on February 6th, his birthday. And so that'll be an all Bob Marley show. I'm really excited about that, bringing a lot of those oldies but goodies and some that a lot of people probably haven't even heard before. So that's
I
going to
love
be a
that.
good one. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been a blast, and it's an honor, Kellee. You've been a light in my life, you and Jameson, and a light to the community of Tower and Fresno. And so keep doing what you're doing.
You too. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here doing this. Thank you for collaborating with me on the 21st. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being my friend. Yeah, and to everyone listening, we would love to have you join us. Again, that's December 21st. It's on the solstice. It's a slow flow and live music experience. You can bring a journal, but that's optional. And it'll just be a beautiful way to honor the longest night of the year and reconnect with yourself before the holidays set in and the new year starts. So you can sign up on the website or the app. There is a limited capacity of 25 people, I think. So just be sure to reserve your spot if you are interested in joining us. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. I love it. Little sneak peek. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, listeners.